Disturbing investigation at a local karate school after a sex offender convicted of raping a karate student years ago was caught working with children again at a karate studio. And tonight, parents there outraged as police investigate how he got that job. WBZ's Julie Lonchek is live on this story in North Brookfield tonight. Julie?
Liam, the problem is the instructor never notified police he was working here. And now police are working to determine if he should have been working here at all.
This is a shock to me, and to Miranda, I'm sure.
Carmi Kozlowski arrived at karate class with her 7-year-old granddaughter in North Brookfield, completely unaware the Eternal River School had not only closed, but had been evicted. Its instructor arrested.
Last thing I expected. And they were both great with the kids, because I sit here the whole time. I've never seen anything suspicious or anything like that of that nature at all. At all.
60-year-old David Sanderson, known to his students as the Grandmaster Doshi, is a level 3 sex offender, convicted of raping several karate students back in 1991. Sanderson is registered in Barrie where he lives, but never notified police he had a new job.
It's just very concerning, if not, I'm going to use the word disturbing, that this situation could even materialize. Photographs
show Sanderson working with children and were all the evidence police needed to charge him with registration violation. Sean Whitney runs a martial arts studio 2 doors down and has offered Sanderson's now former students a month worth of classes for free.
It's just a bad look on everybody. Every martial art teacher out there, you're a mentor to them more than anything.
It was like a dream come true for her, and now I just don't know what you're going to do.
We were unable to reach the studio's owner at all today or this evening. Sanderson is due back in court later this month. We're live in North Brookfield. Julie Lonchek, WBZ News.
We are beginning tonight with a shocking case of sexual assault in Hollister. A longtime martial arts business owner, 51-year-old Timothy Gutierrez, is accused of sexually assaulting one of his young students. And there may be more victims. Action News reporter Phil Gomez was in court when Gutierrez was arraigned. He's live with tonight's top story.
Well, Aaron, Timothy Gutierrez is charged with several felony counts of sexual assault with a child under the age of 14. And there could be more charges in this case and additional victims.
A waiving of the reading of the rights and also a waiving of the reading of the charges.
51-year-old Timothy Gutierrez didn't want the charges read aloud in court, but he's facing multiple felonies that include 2 counts of forcible rape and 2 counts of lewd acts with the child. The sexual assaults occurred at his business, Technique Studios, on 6th Street.
It's my understanding that there may have been classes going on or other personnel present, but not in the exact location. So it's a location within the business itself.
The victim's parents contacted police Sunday when they learned that their child was sexually assaulted.
That, of course, started our investigation immediately. Our officers contacted the reporting parties, the parents, and immediately began the process.
There's a sign on the business that says it's closed, and a phone message says they're on vacation.
We will be closed on vacation this week, April 22nd through the 26th. Thank you.
Parents are outraged that a person whose child is entrusted to an adult would take advantage of that trust.
I feel disgusted, honestly. I can't believe that somebody would do that to a child. I have kids of my own, and I can't picture that.
And a nearby business owner who knows Gutierrez can't believe he's charged with sexually violating a child.
Well, he's a nice guy. You know. I don't see anything person who does things like that.
Since Gutierrez works so closely with children, the DA believes there could be additional victims. Gutierrez is not eligible for a public defender because he earns too much from his martial arts business. Aaron?
All right, Phil, thank you. Gutierrez is scheduled to return to court on April 30th for further arraignment. His bail has been set at $295,000.
Parents trusted him to teach their kids self-defense, but tonight he's behind bars charged with child molestation. What the owner of Pax Karate is saying about the arrest of an instructor. Good evening, everyone. That local martial arts instructor was arrested in Kingsland, Georgia. Tonight, we're learning that he's been charged with 1 count of child molestation.
59-year-old Thomas Airy is being held at the Camden County Jail. He learned his trade at the feet of a local karate legend. Channel 4's Kent Justice joins us live now from Jacksonville headquarters of Fox Karate Academy. And Kent, the founder is saying he's not connected to this arrest?
Well, it's not too complex. He says that he is the founder of Pak's Karate Academies. This is Grandmaster Song Ki Pak. We spoke with him tonight, and he is stunned at the charge he hears leveled against his former student and someone who is a master in the Federation of Martial Arts that they serve in.
It is very shock, that's all.
The man behind the name of the many Pak's Karate Academy locations shared some of his feelings. He says he trained this man, Thomas Airy, more than 30 years ago. He's also upset by the allegations. So did you just find out now when I showed you this, or is this something that you knew already?
Just I hear the brief some person arrest. I don't know why, what happened. That's why I showed this one here. Very shocked to this. I'm nervous right now. I'm so mad myself.
Master's been, you know, we're aware of the investigation, and the United Tongue Sado Federation wants to urge anybody that has any information to cooperate with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and give any information that they might have, so that, you know, we can get this thing behind us.
Yeah. This is the Kingsland, Georgia location for Pak's Karate Academy, the place where Ari taught. When we arrived about 6 o'clock, plenty of people seemed to be inside, but each door was locked to us. You can see Ari in this picture with Craig Peoples at the Brunswick location for Pak's Karate Academy, where Peoples' name is on the building. They told us Peoples runs the Kingsland location.
We have nothing to say.
Okay. Is Craig Peoples here? With no one at that academy talking, I took the mug shot of Thomas Ari around to some people nearby. They said, yeah, they recognized him, thought he worked with the kids, but didn't know for sure if he was employed there. Grandmaster Pak explained that the satellite locations like Kingsland and Brunswick aren't operated by him, but use the same teaching curriculum and his name to describe that to students.
Do they think that this charge, do they think this incident happened at that location?
We don't have any information regarding the investigation other than the arrest.
Off camera, Grandmaster Pak just expressed even more frustration and concern over this charge, child molestation against Thomas Airy. Live Kent Justice, Channel 4, the local station.
Ken, what about the GBI? What are they saying about this incident, and do they believe a student was molested at the academy?
Well, GBI released very little information. They're not really disclosing that right now, Rob. They did tell us in their release that Thomas Airy, he's this age, here's his photo. They told us that he was in the Camden County Jail and that there was one count of child molestation. There will be more information that comes out on this eventually, we hope. Rob?
All right, Kent Justice is live for us tonight. Thank you, Ken.
And last month, when the mother of the girl told police she caught her daughter with a man who was 27 years old.
That man happens to be the girl's karate instructor, and now authorities want to know if there might be other victims. Newswatch 16's Reagan Medji has the story tonight, live from the Pocono newsroom. Reagan?
Well, guys, police are checking to see if there might be more victims because dozens of children attend the karate school in Pocono Summit, where Stephen Rementer was an instructor.
Hey, Stephen, what really happened?
This is 27-year-old Stephen Rementer of Tobyhanna after he gave up his right to a preliminary hearing. Rementer is facing child sex charges after police say he raped a 12-year-old girl who was also his karate student. This case is now heading to trial.
The allegations in the case are very disturbing. Also, the allegation that he was her instructor at the time is very disturbing in that he would have abused that position of trust over the victim.
Police say Pocono Crimson Dragon in Pocono Summit is where Rementer taught dozens of children.
In this particular case, the police are inquiring if there's any additional victims out there. If anybody has any additional information on this particular individual, if they can contact the Pocono Mountain Regional Police Department.
The owner of Pocono Crimson Dragon is in shock and gave us this statement after speaking with his lawyer.
I've been made aware of the allegations and I will be conducting a full investigation. At this time, I have no further comment.
The crime did not take place inside the karate school. Instead, police say Rementer traveled to the victim's home in Tobyhanna. According to these court papers, the mother of the victim says she came home to her house here in Tobyhanna around noon on December 27th. That's when she says she found 27-year-old Stephen Rementer raping her child. Also in the court papers, police say they interviewed the girl who says she and Stephen had sex about 4 times since the summer. The girl also told police Stephen sent her nude photos. Police also interviewed Stephen, who confessed he knew her age and had sex with her half a dozen times, all starting at the end of August last year.
So far, no date has been set for Stephen Rementer's rape trial, and for possible other victims, police will only say that they're investigating. Reagan Medji, Newswatch 16, live in the Pocono newsroom.
Thanks very much, Reagan. A former Bloom.
He once held a position of trust. Now an Enumclaw martial arts instructor is charged with child rape. Prosecutors say the alleged victim is one of his students. Como 4's Denise Whitaker talked to the girl and her mother.
This is a martial arts studio where investigators say Shane Alvarez had sex with a teenager, one of his Taekwondo students. That teenager's mother tells me her daughter started taking lessons from Alvarez in 2009.
He had approached her for sex and coerced her into it.
Court documents say Alvarez had sex with her 3 times at the studio between January and June last year.
He was constantly telling her how beautiful she was. You know, you're good at this, you're great, you're my favorite student.
Arletta tells me her daughter kept it all a secret, but through counseling and journaling, she's been able to tell her parents and police what she says happened.
She cried and said, but I thought he just cared about me, and he did things to me.
Today, prosecutors charged Alvarez with child rape.
It's so disturbing.
Arletta tells me her daughter endured months of sexual abuse while attending classes here with other students, and she tells me she's convinced some of those other students may also be victims.
I just want them to know that it's okay to come forward, and I'll stand with them.
Her daughter told me the same thing.
I just want to encourage others to come forward and know that they are not alone. We can stand together.
Do you feel brave?
Yes.
Investigators say Alvarez denies he ever had sex with the teenager. He is held without bail in the King County Jail. In Enumclaw, Denise Whitaker, Como 4 News.
Teacher behind bars after detectives say he was soliciting sex from one of his teenage students. News Channel 5's Brian Anton is live in Lake Park, where investigators say they could be even more victims. Brian.
Yeah, Jay, neighbors say that this was a busy martial arts studio with kids coming and going. Take a look right now. It is closed. You see Lake Park Martial Arts. There is a sign on the door that says, due to an emergency, the dojo is closed. And now we know the real reason the dojo is closed is because the owner is locked up. This is where kids came to learn karate, jiu-jitsu, and tai chi. But the owner and teacher, Sean Kalasar, now in trouble for allegedly being inappropriate with one of his 14-year-old students.
He seemed very, very nice, yeah. I would have never, because of all the children that were there, I would have never suspected that.
Neighbors can't believe what's in the police report. Investigators say Kalasar started communicating with one of his teenage students through notes left in the bathroom, then through a social media program called Kick.com.
I'm just totally shocked.
Police say Kalasar was, quote, grooming her, writing sexually suggestive messages and allegedly sending partially nude photos, then writing, quote, I have to make sure this is you, not your mom or dad or someone setting me up. It's alarming for the neighbors who say the studio has been especially busy lately.
They were there pretty much all the time because it was school holiday vacation, and there were lots and lots of kids and grown-ups going in and out of there.
Right now, Kalasar remains at the Palm Beach County Jail. No one here is answering the phone or responding to us. Coming up all new at 6 o'clock, though, we'll let you know what happened when the detectives did a controlled call with this suspect. For now, live in Lake Park, Brian Anton, WPTV News Channel 5.
As Brian mentioned,
busted again. A Kalamazoo County karate instructor arrested for allegedly sexually assaulting 3 male students, but tonight he's out of jail again. Robert Earl Keith was arrested yesterday, and we're finding out that this isn't the first time that he's faced sex charges. 24-hour News 8's Steve Kelso was in the courtroom when Keith was arraigned today. Steve.
Good evening, Sue. Robert Keith was supposed to be teaching self-defense. Police say at least 3 of his students could have used some protection from him. On this Halloween, Robert Earl Keith found himself dressed in orange. Kalamazoo County orange and back in familiar territory behind bars. Today, he's charged with 3 counts of criminal sexual conduct. All the charges allege that he sexually touched his victims using force or coercion. In the most serious charge, the victim was under the age of 16.
It's alleged that under the guise of martial arts instruction, these sexual assaults took place. So it was presented to the students as part of the training, as part of the curriculum.
Police say it happened here at Keith's home/karate dojo in the 500 block of Nazareth. One victim came forward. By the time the investigation was complete, there were 3, and police learned it had been going on since 2009. So now you've got to be concerned that there may be other victims out there.
Yes, that's absolutely what concerns us.
The fact that Robert Keith could face 15 years in prison if convicted did not deter attorney James McQueo from asking for a personal recognizance bond for his client. He argued that Keith has been cooperating since the charges first surfaced and could have easily run by now. It did, however, surprise the Kalamazoo County Prosecutor's Office when Judge Paul Bridenstine allowed the bond. And here's part of the reason for that surprise. The prosecutor's office tells me that the judge had access to all of this. This is Robert Keith's criminal record from Florida. In 1997, he was sentenced there as a, quote, mentally disordered sex offender, end quote. He was originally charged there with more than 60 counts of sexual abuse and sentenced to 8 years in prison. Police say when he moved to Michigan, he completed his parole here and registered himself as a Tier 3 sex offender as the law requires. But there is no legal requirement that would have stopped him from being around young people at that karate dojo once he completed his parole. Tonight, Robert Keith is free on bond. He's due back in court November 13th. Brian?
The first one comes forward, it's like a dam breaks, and you'll start getting calls.
Tonight, a convicted sex offender arrested again, accused of molesting a boy more than 30 years ago. And investigators believe there will be more accusers to come forward. Deputies say the former karate teacher hosted sleepovers at his home in Indian Trail. Eyewitness News reporter Jeff Smith has been digging into the suspect's history all night. Jeff?
Erica, Union County deputies yesterday arrested Ricky Coble and charged him with indecent liberties with a child. That's because a man recently came forward and said that when he was 9 years old, he was sexually assaulted by Coble. And because of the victim's story and because of what Coble himself allegedly told detectives, they believe there are more victims out there, and tonight they want those victims to come forward. Deputies say Ricky Coble was working as a karate teacher in Indian Trail in 1980 when he had a sleepover at his house. There were several tents for the children in the backyard. Lieutenant David Linto says a 39-year-old man recently came forward and said he was assaulted in one of those tents, and so was his friend.
The first one comes forward, it's like a dam breaks, and you'll start getting calls. You put his picture out, and I feel certain we'll get some more calls.
Detectives tonight are reviewing old case files and trying to identify other karate students.
People's names change, they get married, they move, they relocate, they're living in other states. A lot of people don't want to be found.
I checked Coble's criminal history and found that he was convicted in 1987 of several counts of indecent liberties with children. He spent 10 years in prison and is now a registered sex offender. Hey, Mr. Coble?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I went to his house in Matthews tonight to get a statement, but when I identified myself as a reporter, he closed the door. If you remember these allegations from 30 years ago, but just to be able to hear from you. Detectives, however, say Coble admitted he's abused many children.
He couldn't say he hadn't assaulted this person. He said he didn't remember.
Now, Coble tonight hasn't said where exactly in Indian Trail this karate studio was located 3 decades ago. At this point, he's been charged with 1 count of indecent liberties with a child. That is a felony, and if convicted on that count, he could go back to prison for several more years. We're live in Indian Trail. Jeff Smith, Eyewitness News on TV 64.
A man who owns a martial arts studio and instructs children is accused of sexual assault. Aurora police say 31-year-old Raul Alberto Gutierrez Hernandez had sexual contact with teenage girls who were his students. Officers arrested him, but Gutierrez Hernandez was able to post bail and is now out of jail. 9 News reporter Cheryl Preheim is in the information center. Cheryl, there have been classes at the Taekwondo studio tonight.
When we were there just a bit earlier at the studio, we saw kids and parents in and out all evening long. The creed for this specific studio includes loyalty, honesty, and integrity, so these accusations are hard for a lot of parents we talked to believe. They say he never showed any signs of being inappropriate with any students, but investigators say Raul Gutierrez Hernandez used his position of trust to lure young women, and they believe there are more victims than they know about.
Taekwondo Tagura is open, just like any other evening. Kids are anxious for class to start and parents fill the lobby. Maria Estevez says her stepson has been coming for years.
He said the teachers and everything is good and practice, and he's very proud about that.
Not one parent or student we talked to had any idea about the investigation into the owner, Master Raul Gutierrez Hernandez, for sexually assaulting students, teenage girls.
Obviously, these young students looked up to him. They may have even looked at him as a father figure. So he was able to use that and lure these young victims into his trap.
The studio's website shows dozens of pictures of children in tournaments and on trips. Gutierrez Hernandez describes himself as a 4th-degree black belt and a 4-time champion. He has been the Colorado State team coach. Aurora police say they know of 3 victims already.
It's more likely than not that there's additional victims.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
The owner of the building the Taekwondo studio rents from says she will likely evict them.
Oh, it's disgusting. It is. But I was shocked. That's pretty awful to hear.
We consider him to be a threat to the community.
The studio is open like any other evening, but police hope parents will take the time to talk to their children, and they hope any other victims will come forward.
Police say over the past 5 to 10 years, he has had contact with hundreds of children. This is now a Crime Stoppers case, so there is a reward for information about other possible victims. He will be in court on August 10th. Bozzy.
Cheryl Preheim reporting tonight. Thanks, Cheryl.
A former Hill Country karate instructor will serve life in prison for sexually assaulting a 12-year-old student. He is 48-year-old Michael Backstrom, convicted Saturday and sentenced late last night. Backstrom taught at the American Taekwondo Association Black Belt Academy in Marble Falls. In addition to the sex assault, he was also found guilty of breaking into the girl's home. Marble Falls police say they don't have any evidence that Backstrom assaulted any of his other students.
A local man entrusted to teach his young students karate is accused of preying on them instead. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Riel Creighton in for Kimberly Hunt. Police arrested 38-year-old Juan Flores, a karate instructor outside the Z Ultimate Studio in Tierra Santa. 10 News reporter Candace Crone reports the charges involve lewd acts with minors.
For the first time since being arrested last week, Juan Flores appeared in court to hear the shocking allegations against him. The karate instructor faces 15 counts of lewd act on a minor and oral copulation involving 2 of his male students, 14 and 17 at the time. Prosecutors say he used his studio in Tierra Santa to lure the victims.
Touching, lying on the floor, massages, and then escalated to oral copulation of both of these victims.
Prosecutors say he held sleepovers at the studio called Ninja Nights, where the kids would play video games and hang out.
When you have parents that, drop their kids off at places like a karate studio in the custody of somebody whom they believe will protect the kids, and instead they sexually abuse the kids.
During the hearing, Flores' attorney asked the judge to lower his client's $320,000 bail to $100,000, citing he has no prior felony convictions and that over the years he's given back to the community.
He has contributed significantly to the community by providing self-defense courses to YMCA, battered women, Father Joe's homeless center.
Former student Stephen Lundberg was shocked when 10 News told him about the charges Flores faces, saying the karate instructor is someone he's always looked up to.
In my whole life, he's just been there for me. He's kept me off the streets. He's been a fatherly figure in the sense that he's always been a role model. He's always been someone that I would strive to become.
Police say there could be more victims.
The judge increased Flores' bail from $320,000 to $350,000. He'll be back in court January 13th. Reporting in downtown tonight, Candace Crone, 10 News.
He is a registered sex offender, and he is affiliated with a karate studio where there are kids. It is an arrangement that is generating concern in Helotes, where at least 2 parents pulled their kids out of the karate school. James Munoz joins us with a live iTeen story that you'll only see on KENS 5. James?
Jeff, you know, in Texas, registered sex offenders are required to tell authorities where they work, but the guy in our story is pretty vague about that. Maybe it's because he may be working near kids.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm James with Channel 5.
Oh, okay.
Looking for Juan Lopez. 58-year-old Juan Antonio Lopez is a registered convicted sex offender. His DPS file states he's a self-employed karate instructor who sexually assaulted an 8-year-old girl in 1990. He's not under supervision but is required to register with authorities. As of last week, his photo was on the wall at Family Martial Arts Leadership Academy in the 13,000 block of Western Oak, and on the Academy's website there was a Grandmaster Lopez listed as Dean of Instruction. The Academy gave KENS 5 full access to its facility, its co-owner telling us at first he'd never heard of Lopez. But he's not here and you don't have that instructor working here?
No.
Okay. We decided to pay a visit to Mr. Lopez. He sidestepped whether he works at the Academy, but did confirm his wife works there. Oh, your wife is. What's her name? My conversation lasted mere seconds. Lopez closed the door on us before I could ever get all my questions answered. Can you give us your attorney's number? After my encounter with Lopez, we placed a phone call to the Academy. That's when the co-owner changed his story. He confirmed Lopez's wife does work at the Academy and said they use curriculum developed by Mr. Lopez, but he's never on site. 2 whistleblowers for this story tell us they've seen Lopez at the Academy. They refuse to go on camera for fear of retaliation. As far as we can tell, there are no restrictions on Lopez as far as staying away from kids, so a private karate facility could hire him. It's up to authorities to determine whether that company name and address get on that DPS website. Reporting live, James Munoz, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.
A local karate instructor has pleaded guilty to sexually abusing a student. The former student, now in his 40s, came forward with accusations against Jorge Alica last September. The victim said the abuse began back in 1984. A sentencing hearing is now set for July 24th. Alica taught karate at the Aikido Shobukan Dojo in Northwest D.C. He was convicted of child sex abuse in another case in 1995.
He was an instructor responsible for the care and the well-being of the students at his martial arts school.
Well, tonight he's locked up and facing allegations he molested 2 of his female students, both teens under 16 years old. Watch 2's Greg Fox has late-breaking details.
After facing a judge for the first time, an instructor at a local martial arts school is facing a hefty bond amount and other conditions, including staying away from that school and its students after being charged with nearly 100 felony counts.
John Durinick sat quietly in court as a judge ordered him held without bond on dozens of felony charges, alleging that he committed sex crimes on 2 of his female students under age 16 at this Taekwondo school.
We have a total of 95 plus counts. That's the only detail that we're disclosing at this time.
St. Cloud police say all of the offenses took place at the John Emmons Taekwondo Academy and involved groping and fondling the 2 girls. We went to Durinick's home and a woman came to the door.
Could we talk to you about Mr. Durinick?
You can see the school is empty. The owner tells me by phone he shut the place down 2 weeks ago after he learned of the investigation into his instructor. There are other schools by the same name, though detectives do not believe there are victims from those schools.
If they were also a victim, we do encourage them to call the St. Cloud Police Department.
Other conditions ordered by the judge: no contact with minors except for Durinick's own children.
We checked court records, and Durinick has no prior criminal history, just a minor traffic offense back in 2006. But now, if convicted on some or all of the counts he's facing, he could face many years in prison. In Osceola County, Greg Fox, WESH 2 News.
We're told 27-year-old Jonathan Lee Wilson, a former instructor here at Burke and Betancourt Taekwondo, had touched several girls inappropriately and is also suspected of raping a 12-year-old.
There's incidents that have occurred in and outside of the studio. A majority of those incidents occurred in the studio.
Police found out about the allegations after a young girl ran into him at Boatnick.
They spoke and there was some inappropriate contact that happened. It was very brief, but it was enough that she came forward.
After the news got out, students at this dojo came forward too. The youngest was 12. Police say she was raped.
This is the first case I've worked where we've had a business that has essentially attracted the victims, so to speak.
But police say this has happened before at the very same place.
Oh, that's a different guy.
Oh.
Okay. No, it was the owner last time.
Oh my gosh.
Talking with surrounding businesses and people on the street,
We know that guy.
a lot of people recognized him, and they were shocked to hear the news.
We just saw him in the parade. He was doing the parade with all the kids and everything. Yeah, he was the leader. He was on the top. That's gross.
Wilson is in jail, charged with several Measure 11 crimes, including rape, sexual penetration, and sex abuse. Travis Cook, NBC 5 News.
Going into this?
I wish I could. No matter what you hear today, I'm innocent.
And with those words, James Everett Detsky returns to court, this time to face sentencing for 3 counts of fondling. The incidents occurred at his martial arts studio in Tupelo. His sentence, 45 years. 20 he will have to serve day for day. 25 will hang over his head should he step out of line.
Do you have anything you'd like to say on your behalf prior to sentence?
No, sir.
I think it's very fair considering his federal sentence that he already received. During his court appearance, Detsky was confronted by the relative of one of the victims. We cannot tell you who she is, but she did tell Detsky he was someone who tried to behave like a smart man. She said, quote, "You're a child molester and you got caught." She told Detsky he had taken away the innocence of her grandchild.
It is always disturbing to see young victims be taken advantage of by sexual predators, and that's why we in this office want to make sure that they serve a maximum sentence and that they have to register as sex offenders.
We had 3 victims here in our county that we had to look out for. We had to do what was right, and today they at least got some closure to it, and so we're proud of what the court has done.
And now a crime alert. A former martial arts teacher in Albany behind bars accused of sexually abusing a child connected to his school. 57-year-old James Butler appeared in court on charges of sex abuse at his former Academy of Fighting Arts in Albany. Police began an investigation after a woman came forward to report the abuse from 12 years ago. Now, she was the sister of a student. Some of Butler's Sweet Home neighbors saw police take him into custody.
Well, I seen him handcuffed and put in a car, and then they took him out and put him in a van and hauled out a bunch of his computer and CDs and all kinds of stuff like that.
The Academy of Fighting Arts was in business from the mid-'80s until the year 2000. Albany police want to hear from others if they may have been victims as children. The school focused on teaching kids. Butler is being held on $100,000 bail.
A martial arts instructor with ties to Charlotte faces sex crimes in New York. Frank DeMaria is accused of making young female students grab his genitals in a self-defense move called the Tiger Claw. Now, we spoke with Master Eric Zabars at Peaceful Dragon on Still Creek Road in Charlotte, and he says DeMaria is a respected grandmaster in Chinese martial arts. He lives in New York but has taught a clinic at Peaceful Dragon before. Zabars says the Tiger Claw is a move that's a legitimate one, and he would never teach it to a child.
In true self-defense, that's a good target to go to. I think the problem in this case, having adults being touched by minors, for me, I mean, I wasn't there, so I really can't comment. I can't fathom why that would ever be necessary.
Now, we spoke with Charlotte-Mecklenburg police, and there are no charges and no accusations against DeMaria here locally.
A man trusted with children will be sentenced today for molesting a student.
Earlier this year, Eric Protis, a karate instructor, pled guilty to several charges. News 8's Rekha Muttaraj is in the newsroom right now with a look at how much time he could spend behind bars. Rekha.
Yeah, good morning, Dan and Nichelle. Eric Protas is an Allied Gardens karate teacher. There was a lot of support for him when he was first arrested last August, but he has since pleaded guilty to more than 24 charges.
We were able to discover what appear to be journals in his own handwriting that we believe are very compelling evidence in this case.
Eric Protas' arrest last August shocked the Allied Gardens community. The popular karate teacher was accused of molesting one of his students, but Protas said he did nothing wrong, and there was even a Facebook page dedicated to his innocence.
Mr. Protas has compared himself to Jesus and talked about having in the accuser his own Judas. The type of things that Mr. Protas was posting included, among other things, asking people to pray for his accuser, to pray that the accuser would relent and change his story.
But in February, it was Protas who changed his story. He pleaded guilty to 29 felony charges, including committing lewd acts on a child. The victim says the abuse started in 2009 when he was 13 years old and went on for about a year. The boy reported the relationship to police after he was arrested for shoplifting, and investigators also found evidence Protas threatened to kill himself if the allegations were made public. And Eric Protas will be sentenced this afternoon. He faces up to 48 years in state prison.
A Twin Cities man is in an Illinois jail tonight charged with sexually assaulting 3 girls in that state when he worked as a karate instructor. Court documents say Dean Furstenberg assaulted the girls between 2001 and 2006. He most recently lived here in Eden Prairie. And as John Lordson learned tonight, he taught karate in Minnesota 2 decades ago.
According to the Kane County attorney, the details are disturbing. They allege that Dean Furstenberg gained the trust of 2 girls while he was their teacher at a karate school in South Elgin, Illinois. The charges claim the girls were between 13 and 16 years old, and Furstenberg, now 43, repeatedly assaulted them at the school. Furstenberg was picked up here in Minnesota in August to face charges in Illinois on a different case. He's accused of assaulting a girl in DuPage County, Illinois between 2001 and 2006. That also happened at a karate school. Furstenberg's ties to the Twin Cities apparently go back a long time.
An instructor at this karate school in Minneapolis told us Dean Furstenberg worked here 20 years ago, also as an instructor. And as far as he knows, Furstenberg never caused any problems.
In fact, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office says Furstenberg has never been accused of or charged with a crime while he has lived in Minnesota.
John talked with Furstenberg's wife at their Eden Prairie home tonight, and she didn't want to discuss the allegations. Dean Furstenberg's next court appearance is late next month.
NBC Right Now is digging deeper into the allegations against a martial arts instructor in Yakima for child rape. Laura Murray found out there are more victims saying he made unwanted advances.
Shocking accusations came out last week against the owner and head instructor of Gracie Barra Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Yakima. A 20-year-old girl told Yakima police she was made to have sex with her 35-year-old instructor, Cristiano Oliveira, at least 100 times when she was only a minor. Sadly, we're learning she may not be the only victim. Trial lawyer J.J. Sandlin says he's representing another young girl who claims she was treated inappropriately by Oliveira over a year ago.
This martial arts company promised them that they would provide a mentor who could be trusted, who would teach ethics and would teach responsibility to this child. And instead, he groomed her.
The lawsuit papers against Cristiano Oliveira and the Gracie Barra Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu company says Oliveira began grooming this young girl for his sexual pleasure. He also made unwanted advances toward the minor through Facebook. Sandlin says the young girl had to receive mental health counseling for his inappropriate conduct. The lawyer says he's given the company plenty of notice about Oliveira's behaviors. I called the executive director of the Gracie Barra company to get their comment. They said they weren't aware of Oliveira's conduct until last week's allegations and had no knowledge of the current lawsuit.
We never served any papers, we never received any emails, we never received any communication, either written or verbal, about this specific lawsuit. And if we had, we would have taken action immediately.
The executive director said Oliveira is suspended from Gracie Barra and they are working to end his affiliation with the company. Oliveira sits in Yakima County Jail with $1 million bail. In Yakima, Laura Murray, NBC, Right Now.
A former Taekwondo instructor already facing charges of child porn possession in Colony is now charged with multiple counts of rape. State police say Christopher Gallup raped a child under the age of 15 at a home in Rotterdam and also at a Taekwondo school in Dwaynesburg. They say he met the victim at the school. Police are asking anyone with information about Gallup to call them immediately.
Another victim comes forward, another charge for 29-year-old Charles Phillip Drake.
What we're doing is going out interviewing different individuals, and in doing so, we pick up more names of potential victims.
Sheriff Jerry Monette says on Monday, Phil Drake was indicted by a grand jury for a third time for committing a sex crime against a young teen victim. According to the indictment, the alleged acts took place between June 2009 and June 2012.
We are finding that this has been going on for some period of time, and some of our victims were actually assaulted at the age of 14 or 15, and now they're 20 years old.
Drake has already been indicted on 2 counts of statutory rape. The Craven County Sheriff's Office says he engaged in sex acts with 2 boys who were 14 years old when the crimes began.
We're also working to try to be sensitive to the identities of the victims, also sensitive to the trauma that the families have gone through.
Investigators say Drake met both previous victims while he was an instructor with an Asian Taekwondo studio. They say he took at least 1 victim outside of the U.S. where he performed a sex act.
Sheriff Monette says Drake is still being held here at the Craven County Jail. He says this third indictment will add an additional $100,000 to his already $500,000 bond. The sheriff tells me if more victims come forward, it could even double.
Sheriff Monette says right now he doesn't see an end in sight with this investigation. He says there is potential for at least 8 victims to come forward.
Next grand jury setting, I'm confident there'll be an additional indictment for another victim that we're working on right now.
Reporting in Craven County, Jamie Hex, News Channel 12.
But we feel like there's going to be.
A karate instructor in Randolph is behind bars tonight after police say he sexually abused one of his students. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. 53-year-old Brant Perkins went in front of a judge today. He is charged with sexual abuse of a minor. News 8's Megan Torgerson is live in Randolph tonight with more on this. Megan?
Good evening, Tracy. State police say the victim was one of Perkins' students at a karate school behind the building you see behind me. And according to prosecutors, Perkins has a teenage son the same age as the victim. Perkins still in jail tonight, but appeared in front of a Belfast judge via video conference this afternoon. His bail was set, and the terms of his release include no contact with the victim or anyone under the age of 18. According to prosecutors, the victim was a 15-year-old girl. State police say the crime occurred at Perkins' rented home in Edgecombe, and a family friend reported the abuse. We spoke with the owner of the main Ishanru Karate Academy, and he says Perkins was only a volunteer. He says he is no longer associated with this karate school.
I'm shocked by the allegations. Brant Perkins is no longer affiliated with our facility. He won't be back, and he was not an employee. A lot of positive support from members that have been with us for years and years and years.
Perkins has a lengthy criminal history dating back to 1977, mostly for writing bad checks, although he did serve some jail time for some of those other charges, including a felony charge. His next court date for this charge is in May. We're live in Randolph tonight. Megan Torgerson, News 8.
A Boca Raton martial arts teacher is now behind bars this morning for allegedly having sex with a 12-year-old student. Police say 40-year-old Alexander Johnson lured the girl in by promising to help her with her poetry and promising to marry her when she was 18. The investigation began in 2012. The judge said Johnson is a danger to the community and will remain locked up until his trial.
New information tonight in the case of a martial arts instructor arrested on sex abuse charges. William Brent Mullins was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree sex abuse and sentenced to 13 months in prison and 3 years probation. Mullins will also be required to register as a sex offender. He was accused of sexually abusing 2 of his male students at Northwest Martial Arts in
Now to a developing story. Police are investigating a Taekwondo instructor accused of having sex with an underage girl who was one of his students.
Now the instructor works for Shim's Taekwondo Academy in Marietta. He's been there for 8 years. CBS Atlanta's Renee Starzik is live there now with more on the case.
The master of this academy, Young Jin Shim, was supposed to hold classes here tonight. Instead, he is locked up in jail right now facing sex charges. Many of the parents who showed up here had no idea he's in big trouble with the law.
He's kind, nice, wonderful with the children, encouraging. This is shocking, absolutely shocking.
Caroline Wyman and other parents brought their kids to this Marietta martial arts studio for lessons tonight, only to find the doors locked. The owner and head instructor, 32-year-old Young Jin Shim, is in jail, accused of having sex with one of his young female students.
He's very nice and he's very, he's very strong and everything, but it just doesn't seem like him to do that.
Shim is a two-time national black belt champion in Taekwondo and once trained for the Olympics. We're told he is well-liked and respected.
Everybody is out in the open. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him alone with a child in his office. It's a real family environment.
Police say Shim and the student had some type of relationship. They won't say whether it was forced or consensual. The two allegedly had sex at the studio and at Shim's townhome in Roswell. No one answered the door at the instructor's Roswell home. Roswell police are also involved in the investigation. As parents turned away tonight, they wrestled with how to explain to their children why their Taekwondo master is now behind bars.
I'm really upset and sad about it, and haven't even said anything to my son because he looks up to Master Shim so much.
Police tell us the relationship took place about 3 years ago, but the young girl just came forward and told her mother recently. Shim is charged with child molestation. He's due in court tonight at 8. We are live in Marietta. Renee Starzik, CBS Atlanta News.
I see boys out there all the time. Never, and they would always go inside.
Yvonne Chavez lives down the street from the man police say molested a 13-year-old boy inside his Southwest Modesto home for about a year.
It's scary to me because I have little ones, and they're 12 and 8, and they always play out here, and her grandson's always out here, 2 of them,
She and another neighbor tell me they'd often see Carlos Loya with one boy in particular, and are growing increasingly concerned there may be other victims.
I remember her grandson would go, he would pick him up and bring him back, in the evening, and he was by himself all the time with him. And like you said, her grandson didn't want to go anymore. Wow. We don't know why. Yeah. Maybe there was a reason why, but we don't know why.
According to the complaint, Loya had molested his former karate student nearly 3 years ago and made contact with another underage boy who he is also accused of molesting.
Es un hombre buena gente.
One woman we talked with outside Loya's karate studio didn't want to be shown on camera, but told us in Spanish her kids took classes from Loya for 3 years and never had a problem.
In the afternoons, you'd see a good 30, 40 kids here, a bunch of cars, a bunch of parents.
Employees at neighboring businesses tell us dozens of kids have attended the karate school for at least the past 6 years. But police tell us what those parents wouldn't have known is that Loya is a registered sex offender from a conviction more than 20 years ago. However, he doesn't show up on a Megan's Law search because his conviction was for a lesser offense of sexual battery.
Karate coach accused of sexually assaulting a student, John.
And Emily, police say that it happened inside this karate studio in Arlington. It has been closed since the coach here was arrested yesterday. The instructor, 52-year-old Thomas Donahue, will be in court accused of sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl here on several occasions. Police say he'd take the girl into his office after class and have her help him remove his leg brace. That's when they say the assaults took place. Police here now looking for other possible victims. We're live in Arlington this morning. John Atwater, News Center 5.
All right, John, thank you. The feds are...
A man who taught Taekwondo to local children is charged with molesting a 7-year-old girl. Police arrested Michael Koch of Springfield Township at his Summit Road home last night. 9 News reporter Jay Warren is live in the newsroom now with new allegations against Koch. Jay?
Well, Carol, 53-year-old Michael Koch allegedly coerced the girl to touch him inappropriately while he watched adult films. An affidavit states that he routinely watched porn in her presence and asked her to lick her lips because it, quote, got him worked up. I went to his house on Summit Road today, but no one answered. Koch was a local Taekwondo instructor, and this is a clip from him on YouTube. Koch is taught at Pleasant Ridge Montessori and the Blue Ash YMCA. In fact, his bio states that he has run Taekwondo programs at 6 area YMCAs. Now, the YMCA of Greater Cincinnati issued a statement today stating that, quote, Michael Koch has never been on the payroll of the YMCA of Greater Cincinnati. However, he was employed by IK Kim Taekwondo, an agency we have contracted with. That organization confirms that Mr. Koch has not been employed by IK Kim for the past 3 years. Now, the YMCA says it has strict guidelines for its instructional programs, that a child is always in the care of 2 or more staff members at a time. Now, Cincinnati Public Schools has confirmed that Koch had a permit which allowed him to teach at schools, but tonight he is banned pending the outcome of the court proceedings. Carol?
A North County karate teacher is facing hundreds of charges of child abuse. 31-year-old Josh Churchill was arrested last week, accused of having unlawful sex with a minor over a 3-year period. CBS News 8's Dominic Garcia is live in Poway tonight with what we know about Churchill and some new video that shows how serious investigators were as they tracked him down. Dom?
Beverly and Carlo, on Thursday, the Sheriff's Department raided Churchill's karate school, and when they did, they smashed the front door, and you can see they're repairing it right now. He would end up being arrested at his home. However, he now faces a long list of serious charges. This video shows the Sheriff's Department raiding the United Studio Self-Defense Karate School in Poway last Thursday, the same day its lead teacher, Joshua Churchill, was arrested for having sex with a minor. Michelle McCowan's daughter is a former student of the 31-year-old and couldn't believe the news.
Total disbelief. I couldn't believe it.
The Sheriff's Department arrested Joshua Churchill last Thursday and say the abuse happened over a span of 3 years. The acts took place in a number of locations, even the Poway Karate Studio. He faces a number of charges, including any lewd act with a victim 14 or 15 years old, oral copulation, and sodomy with a victim under 16. His bail has been set at $25 million.
On certain charges, there are about 199 counts each.
According to a former student we spoke to off camera, Churchill has been teaching karate for years. He also told us the 31-year-old is married and had a tendency to get angry. Michelle says she never would have suspected he could do this.
It just goes to show you that you never know. You gotta really watch out. I mean, it's scary.
Now, all day we've been told we were going to get a statement from the United Studios of Self-Defense. They own this school. It's a large company with a lot of locations, but we're still waiting for that statement. Barbara Lee?
All right, Dom, thanks. Churchill is scheduled for arraignment in San Diego Superior Court tomorrow.
New at 5 o'clock today, police are searching for a karate instructor who they say sexually assaulted one of his own students. That student, a 15-year-old girl. Local 2's Nefertiti Jacquez in Southeast Houston tonight with the story.
Well, at the time of the sexual assault, this building was the suspect's karate studio. Police say the owner lured one of his students to his home, and then he sexually assaulted her. He's the karate teacher who's accused of sexually assaulting one of his female students, and now Jimmy Walker faces some serious charges for what police say he did to a 15-year-old girl. The investigation started this summer after the girl made an outcry to her mother. According to these court documents, the victim worked for Walker and was also one of his students here at his former Southeast Houston studio. Iron Fist Martial Arts shut down shortly after investigators say they started looking into the allegations. Back on June 7th, police say the suspect brought the girl to his apartment to pick up supplies for the studio. But once inside, they say he took advantage of her and assaulted her. We stopped by Walker's home address, but he's moved, and his school has been closed for a couple of months, according to those who work next door. Records show the suspect spoke with detectives at one point earlier on in the investigation, but denied any wrongdoing before fleeing the state to, quote, take care of his children. Fast forward to last Thursday, the 46-year-old was arrested and thrown into jail, but he has since bonded out. Now, we don't know if Walker is married, but records show that a woman bonded him out yesterday morning. We're in Southeast Houston. Nefertiti Jacquez, KPRC Local 2.
Now, Walker has been charged with sexual assault of a child under 17, which is a felony.
A fired martial arts instructor in Wake County faces charges tonight for having an inappropriate relationship with one of his students. Investigators say the 31-year-old Taekwondo teacher is accused of having sex with the 15-year-old girl over several months. WRAL's Sloan Heffernan joins us live from our newsroom now with more. Sloan? Deborah, this search warrant obtained by WRAL details the relationship the instructor allegedly had with the student, including a sexual encounter in a hotel room during a martial arts tournament.
31-year-old Joseph Gales was an instructor at Vision Taekwondo in Fuquay-Varina for 7 years. The operator of the academy says the popular third-degree black belt instructor was suspended immediately after allegations surfaced that he was having an inappropriate relationship with a student.
It's like finding out that there's a potential predator in your family. I've known him for almost 10 years.
According to this search warrant, the victim, who was 15 at the time, said Gales bought her gifts throughout their relationship, including underwear from Victoria's Secret. The warrant states Gales also bought underwear for another juvenile student. The victim also said she stayed in Gales' hotel room during a Taekwondo tournament in Durham last September.
It's kind of like being a school teacher. Occasionally, you'll find one bad one out of 1,000.
Michael Wegman, the master instructor at Vision, says letters were sent to parents informing them of the situation. Parents at the academy Wednesday night declined to comment on camera.
Some at first did not believe the allegations. Most are taking it far more serious these days since he's been arrested.
Parents received this letter about Gales' termination after an investigation was launched last February. He has since been charged with 3 counts of statutory rape. Gales is being held on $100,000 bond at the Wake County Jail, and investigators tell me this investigation is still open. Deborah, thanks, Sloan.
First at 5:30, a karate instructor from North Attleboro is accused of having sex with a 13-year-old girl.
Eyewitness News reporter Steve Nielsen has been combing through the police report. He joins us now from the control room with more on the disturbing allegations, new at 5:30.
Well, the incident report that I have here that I've gone through really is very jarring information when you read it. And the officer who wrote the report says the 40-year-old admitted to everything. On North Main Street in Attleboro, police say Corey Ruel taught martial arts at the YMCA. This picture of Ruel taken by authorities after they say he raped a 13-year-old female at least 5 times this year. Eyewitness News obtained these court documents that reveal he was busted after police say 40-year-old Ruel told someone about it because he was concerned the 13-year-old might be pregnant. The documents reveal Ruel admitted to everything. The victim also told authorities what happened, telling detectives in the documents she and Ruel had a conversation about what would happen if they were a couple, and that conversation led to the kiss. She added they did have sexual intercourse at the Attleboro YMCA 2 to 3 times in the racquetball courts downstairs. The YMCA didn't return our calls today, but told the Sun Chronicle Ruel was a member, not a paid staffer, and is no longer allowed on the premises. But the documents reveal it didn't stop at the YMCA. It continued at his North Attleboro home that he shares with his wife and 2 children. A sign on the door Wednesday morning reads, "No comment, please respect my privacy, get off my property." Ruel told authorities the victim's own parents dropped her off at Ruel's home. Her parents were told, according to authorities, that she was going to babysit Ruel's 2 children. Instead, the documents state he admitted to having sex with her multiple times. Ruel is facing 5 counts of aggravated statutory rape. That's 1 count for every time he admitted to police in the documents to having sex with a 13-year-old. He's being held on $50,000 bail. I'm Steve Nielsen, Eyewitness News.
Now, disturbing new information in the arrest of a Taekwondo instructor. New charges involving a 3rd child, and there could be more victims out there. The 3rd victim was also a student of 23-year-old Andrew Jim Kim. Kim was an instructor at O's Taekwondo in Seminole. This latest child came forward after Kim was arrested last week. Jamel Lene joins us now live from the jail where Kim remains behind bars tonight. Jamel?
Good evening, Jim. Well, Jen, Kim is facing an additional charge of capital sexual battery. This news has shaken up this martial arts community here in Seminole, and now the instructors, they are trying to rebuild what Kim has broken. News that martial arts instructor Andrew Jim Kim is facing new charges is spreading fast through this Seminole community.
As a martial arts school instructor and owner, it's a real violation, of our philosophy and what we stand for.
Martial arts instructors around Seminole are shocked and offended.
It's terrible, and it's a disgrace to the martial arts industry. That is a poor representation of what is out there, because we as martial artists operate with integrity.
They become a part of your family and a part of your life. So knowing that anybody could take that and abuse it is a really terrible thing.
Kim was arrested on Friday on 2 counts of molestation. Now a third victim has come forward.
One of the parents of the original victims for which he was arrested communicated the information and sent a link to this particular victim's mother.
Detectives believe there could be others.
It continues to be today concerned that there could be additional victims out there.
Kim did go before a judge this morning, and he remains here behind bars at the Pinellas County Jail. Jen?
Jamel Lene live in St. Petersburg for us tonight. Thank you, Jamel.
Dark secrets emerging right now at 11. Investigators revealing a martial arts instructor's devious past, accusing him of having sex with an underage student. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jameis Mueller.
And I'm Laura Harris. Wendy Ryan has the night off. The martial arts community, along with parents, saying they are shocked about the new details.
ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska has the new developments tonight.
We made every attempt tonight to talk to someone on camera here at the Taekwondo School of Excellence. We got no comment all day today. All we got was a note on this door. Parents dropping their kids off for class at Taekwondo School of Excellence were shocked to learn the man that had been teaching their children was arrested earlier today for having sex with a student.
He's got 2 kids that I know of. I think there's another one coming. So this is really sad. It's a sad situation for him. I feel for everybody involved.
Shelley Blum's twins have gone to the school for nearly 6 years. Their lead instructor was 26-year-old Chase Woolman, now charged with 2 felonies. Blum gave her children permission to talk to ABC Action News.
It's definitely very shocking that happened, and it's a big surprise because a lot of people look up to him and admire him, and it's kind of sad to hear that.
Master Chase just seems like a regular guy. I wouldn't imagine him ever doing something like that.
According to an arrest warrant from Lake Wales Police, Woolman began sexual advances towards a student in 2010. Police say Woolman was 21 at the time, the student between the ages of 13 and 15. The report says some of the crimes were committed inside the school in a closet, others in an alley behind the building. The details too much for some members to keep their children enrolled.
I think this is probably going to be our last trip in here.
Students we talked to had nothing but nice things to say about Woolman, a man described as a devout Christian with a loving family.
I've known him for a long time, and it's just, he doesn't seem like the guy to do that, it's very hard to take.
The note basically says that they were saddened by the accusations and that Woolman has been placed on a temporary leave of absence until the investigation through the police department is over. We're in Polk County tonight. Michael Paluska, ABC Action News.
A local elementary school is warning parents after learning a former Taekwondo instructor there was charged with molesting one of his students.
CBS 2's Mike Parker went to the home of that instructor in Morton Grove tonight.
Tonight at the Morton Grove home of the man charged with felony criminal sexual abuse. Channel 2 News, wonder if we could talk to you, sir. We were met with a slammed door. The man who lives here amidst an ornate lawn display is on electronic monitoring. He's 61-year-old Triantafilos Terry Totas, a martial arts instructor who runs a Taekwondo studio in Skokie. The victim of the alleged attacks, an 8-year-old boy who took lessons here. Prosecutors say that on 3 occasions, Totas kissed, fondled, and groped the boy beneath his clothing. He allegedly told the victim what he was doing was a secret. Do you believe these charges against him?
I don't. Tell you the truth, I don't.
Tota's neighbor says both her children were students at the man's Skokie studio.
My daughter is 12, my son is 8, and they're there since they were 4 years old, both of them.
They trust him and love him?
Yes, and then my kids even go to and stay in his house when they want to play around, and it's never been an issue, never been a problem.
Until February, Totus also taught Taekwondo classes at Chicago's prestigious South Loop Elementary School. The school is telling parents the incidents did not take place there and the victim was not a student. Moments ago, we received a statement from the principal at South Loop School saying, "We're very concerned about these allegations. I'm working with CPS to decide our next steps. If any parents have any concern about their child enrolled in Mr. Terry's class, to please reach out to me." Live in the newsroom, Mike Parker, CBS 2 News. Robin, Kate.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
A man who used to teach karate in Lumberton is beginning a 20-year sentence in federal prison after a jury found him guilty of possessing and distributing child pornography. A federal judge sentenced 60-year-old Ronald Seabridge Tuesday. Fox 4's Lauren Hewitt reports not only did Seabridge teach kids, he also lived right across the street from a school.
Darlene Ford lives just one house down from Ronald Seabridge's old karate studio and home on East Candlestick.
Somebody like that, I'm glad he's not living a couple doors down anymore. You know, our kids are grown, but we do have grandkids, and that's real scary.
Ford says it shocked the community when investigators searched Seabridge's home in 2009 and found more than 300 images of child pornography.
It's not ever good to hear anything like that. You couldn't believe somebody would actually do that. And then it was only a couple doors down, across from the school, across from the playground. It's sad, really.
He had a lot of kids, and I'd see him out here.
Ed McKinney lives a few doors down. He says there are a lot of kids on this street.
Well, I think it's the same thing everybody fears, that, you know, it's your kids, and it's parents' jobs to protect them. So I think that's one of the things that, you know, most people fear the most.
People are using the internet to share and swap child pornography.
U.S. Attorney Malcolm Bales says Seabridge received and exchanged child porn on a secretive online file-sharing network.
Some are producing it, some are just collecting it. But in any event, it typically involves going to some sort of third-party website.
That's how they found Seabridge, and that's how Bales says they'll find others.
There are paths to understand who's doing this, and sooner or later, you will be discovered. So while folks are getting more technically sophisticated, we are also getting more sophisticated.
In Lumberton, Lauren Hewitt, Fox 4 News.
Bale says there's no evidence Seabridge assaulted any children.
Well, a safety alert for parents this morning. There is a man who parents trusted with their children who's in jail this morning, accused of molesting a 5-year-old little girl here in the Valley. He was a karate teacher at various places, and ABC 15's Kimberly Chang is live at Child Time, where the alleged victim went to preschool. Kimberly, police are concerned that there may be more victims here.
Connie, they are, and they're asking parents to really talk to their children this morning. The little girl you mentioned took self-defense class here at Child Time in Chandler, a preschool, and all the while police say she may have been the victim. This is how they encouraged her to talk. They gave her a stuffed animal and said, describe the interaction between you and your karate instructor, and she said that he touched her and tickled her in her private areas. Now, we know this morning that this karate instructor, Scott Allen Flood, 47 years old of Chandler, is accused of 2 counts of molestation, arrested Friday at his home in Chandler. In 2010, Flood was also accused of molesting another 5-year-old girl in Tempe. He was not prosecuted in that case. Now, Flood has worked at child care centers and preschools here in the Valley for at least a decade. He was self-employed as a karate instructor. And last week, this 5-year-old told police Flood touched her inappropriately every time she was in karate class. We spoke with a parent here at Child Time who says if this is true, a level of trust has definitely been violated.
It's very violating because parents, they trust these people. They pay, money for their kids to be taught a lesson, not to be, molested.
Child Time Preschool released a statement saying this situation is very upsetting. They work hard to select vendors that provide children with the best possible experience, and they're cooperating with authorities. Connie, this morning, no bond has been set for Flood's release, and he has denied these allegations, saying if there was ever inappropriate touching, it was all accidental.
And I think that's the clarification, just a second, you cleared up for me that I wanted for parents as well, that this was a vendor who had come into Child Time. He wasn't actually employed by Child Time as a caregiver, right?
Exactly. He was self-employed and he taught karate classes at several different preschools and child care centers around the valley, as I mentioned earlier, for at least 10 years.
All right. So in other words, if your child's taking karate at a preschool anywhere in the valley, you may want to look into this. Kimberly, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
A karate teacher from the Lehigh Valley is accused of taking advantage of one of his underage female students. Charges including statutory sexual assault and corruption of minors have been filed against 49-year-old Christopher Calgani. Police say he threatened 15-year-old student into having a sexual relationship with him. They say the incidents occurred several times over a 2-month period in 2012 in the Bethlehem apartment that Calgani was living in at the time.
A Vinton karate school owner is in jail tonight accused of raping a former student. Police arrested Richard Perez yesterday. He is charged with several counts of indecent liberties with a child and statutory rape. The former student told investigators Perez raped her several times in 2012. She just recently came forward with the allegations. Perez, through his lawyer, denies the claims. We stopped by the business, but the doors were locked and this sign was hanging in the window. Perez has a bond hearing tomorrow afternoon.
A Madison County Sheriff's Office detective is accused of sexual exploitation of minors. That's according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. 40-year-old Bruce Harvey is charged with transporting minors across state lines for the purpose of sexual activity. It allegedly happened between 1998 and 2007 while he was a karate instructor.
Parents trusted him to teach their children, but tonight a New Jersey martial arts instructor is behind bars accused of abusing that trust.
And police worry that there could be more possible victims. CBS 2's Dave Carlin has more now on the accused instructor.
Representing the Avengers.
The man in these home videos demonstrates a mix of flashy martial arts moves. But police accuse him of different moves that put the 27-year-old behind bars. Prosecutors released this photo of George Mendoza Valentino. The part owner of this martial arts academy in Springfield Township is charged with sexual assault and endangering the welfare of a child. Prosecutors say he repeatedly sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl at the studio.
I can't believe that. I've seen him in the dojo teaching the children, and I've never seen anything like that, you know, between his behavior to the children.
Merchants with stores on the same block as the dojo told us Mendoza Valentino has worked here for several years, seems to be very outgoing, and has a steady girlfriend. Prosecutors won't say how police became aware of the alleged crimes. Mendoza Valentino is also accused of sending the victim sexually explicit images and videos of himself.
This is a really low, key town, and, you can do good business here, there's good people here, and now you got a sex scandal, It's kind of rocket.
Now people are gonna be like worrying, do I trust these people now? Especially in martial arts, because that's big thing for kids to do.
Prosecutors say this investigation is not over as police search for more possible victims. In Springfield, New Jersey, Dave Carlin, CBS 2 News.
Mendoza Valentino is being held at the Union County Jail in Elizabeth. His bail is set at $125,000.
And chilling charges. A man who spent years working with children is jailed and accused of sexually abusing a preteen.
It tops our news at 5:30. Some local parents on edge tonight. This after police say a karate instructor sexually assaulted one of his young students.
Yes, this allegedly happened at a facility in Hazel Park. Our Will Jones has more now on the disturbing allegations. Will?
Police say the sexual acts happened over a 6-month period. The family of the 12-year-old boy trusted this man with their children. Now he's accused of violating that trust.
There was more than karate happening at the Koi Khan Karate Club in Hazel Park. Police say here, 48-year-old karate instructor Glenn Norton sexually assaulted a 12-year-old boy multiple times from June to December last year. Police got involved late last month after the victim told his mother. Glenn Norton is being held at the Oakland County Jail on a $1 million bond. He's charged with 6 counts of felony criminal sexual conduct.
This is obviously one of the most heinous crimes that can occur in any society.
Besides karate, Norton spent hours around children as a home health care nurse for disabled children and as a pediatric ICU nurse at St. John Hospital. Police are investigating if Norton had any inappropriate contact with patients.
That obviously heightens your concern that this individual has chose a profession that allows him certain access perhaps to younger children.
St. John Providence Health System said in a statement the individual is employed at St. John Hospital. He's on an unpaid administrative leave. In the interest of privacy, we're not in a position to provide any additional information. Police are warning parents to look out for signs of abuse. In this case, it took the victim 6 months to come forward.
Usually what happens in situations like this is the child's behavior will change. There may be an event that they start to shy away from that they used to really enjoy.
Police are not ruling out if there could be more victims out there. This investigation is ongoing. If you have any information, give them a call. We're at Hazel Park PD. Will Jones, Local 4.
5:44 now. New this morning, 2 former employees of Mitchell's Martial Arts in Salisbury have been charged with first-degree rape. Zachariah Bennett and Leah Wright are both former karate instructors. Now they're accused of engaging in sex acts with children inside the business over a 3-month period last year. Both of them face more than 20 sex abuse charges. Wright's charges include joining Bennett in some of those acts and also as acting as a lookout. They're no longer employed at that karate facility.
In the Metro East, a martial arts instructor is accused of shocking acts of child sexual abuse.
He was arrested in front of his co-workers and students, many of whom are children. Fox News' Kim Hudson has reaction from Belleville.
Formal charges from St. Clair County indicate 20-year-old Christopher M. Horton attacked a student of his, a boy under the age of 13, repeatedly between May and September in 2012. Kevin Gogler owns the 3T Martial Arts Studio in Belleville. He says Horton was a part-time instructor until Monday night.
3 uniformed officers came into the studio and collected Chris from the studio under the guise that they had some questions for an ongoing investigation involving internet activities. All we knew was his mother called the police on him, and they picked him up.
Even parents who did not have kids at 3T were shocked. So was Joyce Johnston, now a grandparent.
I think that what happens here is this needs to be put on the list of things, top priorities, like the gun issue.
Tyrone Edwards and his wife have a 13-year-old son who loves karate.
You're like, oh, you know that happens, but you always think that happens to somebody else's child.
Gogler says he ran a 50-state background check when he hired Horton about a year ago, and that police ran another after the arrest. Gogler says both came back clean. Still, he says the staff and families of 3T are reeling. He even asked police if he missed any clues, indicating that Horton could be a predator.
And then they said, quite honestly, there's not much more you could have done because these people don't walk around carrying signs.
In Belleville, Kim Hudson, Fox 2 News.
Now, earlier, Fox reported Horton worked at 3 Tigers Martial Arts in Swansea. That was incorrect, according to managers at that studio. Horton never worked there. Still, those managers say their thoughts and prayers are with the families and staff of 3T.
A former martial arts instructor accused of having a sexual encounter with a 14-year-old is jailed 10 days in jail. Jason Webb apologized for his actions after he pleaded guilty. He was 26 years old when the incident happened last summer. Webb will be on 3 years probation and will need to register as a sex offender for the next 25 years. Webb was an instructor at the East Coast Martial Arts Center in Edgewater, when he began an intimate relationship with a teenager. He turned himself in back in February.
Former karate instructor is accused of sexually assaulting one of his 9-year-old students in Lackawanna County. John Smith owns Serenity Martial Arts in Clark Summit. Court papers show Smith would spank the boy, and on multiple occasions he dared the boy to take off his clothes while they were alone during lessons. Smith was also charged with corruption of minors back in 2005 when he was 19 years old, then for allegedly having sex with a 15-year-old.
And tonight, new at 11, parents called 12 claiming they were left in the dark about a sex offender working with their kids at a fitness center in Ashland.
Now, 31-year-old Justin Dutcher is charged with parole violation. He allegedly never told the center about his troubled past. New at 11, Brent Solomon is live at the Henrico County Jail where Dutcher is being held.
And Brent, what have you learned?
Go. Yeah, it turns out the Henrico man who actually worked with children at an Ashland fitness center was previously convicted for abusing a child. The world-class martial arts center in Ashland promotes self-defense, fitness, and fun.
Kids love it.
The company's website advertising help kids go back to school with confidence.
My kids have been coming here for about 3 years. Get some energy out. They can learn some structure and enjoy being a kid.
But little did anyone know convicted sex offender Justin Dutcher was helping out at the center. According to the state sex offender registry, the 31-year-old sexually abused a child in 2011.
So was he registered when he
Yes.
was? If it's easy to find it on the internet, I mean, a simple background check would have caught that.
At this beauty salon next door, employees are stunned.
You never know who's beside you.
Take a look at this tip sent to 12. It says the owner has not reached out to parents, and there are parents who were unaware that anything happened. When I got in touch with the owner, he didn't want to be interviewed, but provided this statement. Needless to say, we were all shocked. We were not aware of his previous legal status. His membership has been suspended, and the center is in the process of informing students.
A lot of people still are finding it to be quite a sensitive subject.
So you would have never suspected anything?
No.
This is a felony offense for Dutcher. He's due back in court in March. Live in Henrico on your side, Brent Solomon, NBC 12.
There is new information on a molestation case involving a karate instructor from Modesto. Tonight we're learning that 9 victims have now come forward since Carlos Loya's arrest in August. The allegations came to light when one of Loya's former karate students alleged the instructor molested him several years ago. CBS 13's Angela Musalam has more now from Modesto. New at 5.
Police say this is where Loya taught karate for years. They also say this is where some of the alleged molestations occurred. You can see by this sign here, the business is now shut down. We tried to speak with Loya's family earlier today. They did not want to comment, but one neighbor is speaking out about her experience.
He's just been a very quiet guy.
This neighbor has asked us to keep her identity anonymous. She says since learning about Loya's arrest in August, she no longer allows her kids to leave the house unsupervised.
They need to leave.
Loya's neighbor says she's afraid he'll find a way out of jail and become a threat to the neighborhood. She says she knew one of his victims.
He was frightened of the guy. He would cry not to go to karate.
Modesto police say since Loya's arrest in August, 9 additional victims, all boys, have reported being molested by Loya. According to a criminal complaint filed by the Stanislaus County District Attorney in September, Loya was charged with 32 counts for allegedly molesting 10 boys between 1999 and 2014. The victims reported being molested at Loya's home in Modesto, the karate school, and even at a home where Loya's relative lives.
Typically with crimes such as these, most of the time when individuals wait to report something, victims wait to report a crime like this, it's because they are embarrassed.
The boys ranged from 11 to 14 years old. Even more disturbing, police now say Loya was a registered sex offender but was still able to operate a karate school and be around children because of the way the law is written.
It would probably show up, I would say, on his registration if he was not allowed to be children. Typically, sexual batteries are not.
We went to Loya's home Wednesday afternoon to speak with family, and this is what they had to say.
Go to the lawyer.
Loya remains in the Stanislaus County Jail on nearly $6 million bail. He is expected to be in court on October 25th.
Loya remains in the Stanislaus County Jail at $6 million bail, and again, he's going to be in court on October 25th for his pre-trial hearing.
In fact, he was supposed to teach a karate class the morning the minor went missing, and that obviously led to additional concerns.
On January 31st, an Amber Alert was issued for a missing 13-year-old girl suspected of being kidnapped by 60-year-old karate instructor Stephen Larson.
He had several students, and he was, a well-known, I'd say fairly well-known karate instructor. Seemed to be highly respected.
The original Amber Alert for the missing teen indicated the two were thought to be heading for Chicago, the completely opposite direction of where they were found. The question many are asking is, where was the mix-up?
He had family relations up there. He's on the Amtrak line, so that was the initial maybe thought that he'd gone to Chicago. But what had happened is he left his car there at the Amtrak station, and another person, a 17-year-old female juvenile, picked them up, and then drove them to Sikeston, Missouri.
Since the driver is considered a juvenile, Kibler says it isn't likely she'll be charged in the teen's disappearance. But with new information that came out this weekend, Larson now faces a more severe charge.
But the actual crime, indecent solicitation, is essentially he was soliciting, he was asking her to engage in sexual conduct, knowing that she was underage.
Kibler says if Larson is convicted, he would also be required to register as a sex offender with the state of Illinois. However, Effingham County isn't the only one pursuing this case.
I know that the Illinois State Police Zone 7 is trying to package it all together and send it to the prosecuting attorney in New Madrid, Missouri, Andrew Lawson. He's reviewing what he might have charge-wise over in the state of Missouri. And the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Illinois would also have concurrent jurisdiction because he took her across state lines.
A former instructor at a Lee's Summit karate school is facing federal charges for child pornography tonight. KMBC 9's Brian Johnson reports one of the victims is a former student.
The FBI says it found more than 1,000 images and video files of suspected child pornography on Jared Faulkner's computer. The evidence allegedly included at least 2 images of a 7-year-old girl who was a student at the Tamashi Karate Studio. The alleged photo was taken using a cell phone. This is the karate studio where Jared Faulkner worked. We went inside, we spoke with the owner. She declined to go on camera, saying she had to attend to her students. And while the policies in place have not changed since he worked here, she does say that there are protocols in place and that safety is of the utmost importance. Faulkner was living in Raytown with a friend when he was let go.
There were parents of the kids getting mad and upset, and she's like, I can't be having the parents be getting mad and upset. We might lose business, so you're going to have to go.
Jeremy Hill says he never would have suspected anything of his friend. He says Faulkner was a great instructor and would drive his students to school.
He'd be watching them in the morning before school, and they got a big van for the Tamashi karate place, and so he fills the van with the kids and takes them wherever schools they need to go.
Parents are disturbed to think anyone would work with kids to take advantage of them.
Just think it's just sad that kids can't have a safe place these days.
In Lee's Summit, Brian Johnson, KMBC 9 News.
Now, the court considers Faulkner a flight risk and is asking that he be detained without the option for bail.
A martial arts instructor is behind bars tonight after allegations have surfaced that he had a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old student. Investigators are now urging any other victims to come forward. New details are coming in by the minute on this case. News 4's Corey Stark is staying on top of it for us tonight.
Chris, Tony Harris owns and teaches at this martial arts academy behind me. Police say he's had hundreds of students, and now one female student's family has come forward after sensing something wasn't right. A sign on the door saying no classes today because the academy's owner and instructor, 32-year-old Tony Harris Jr., is behind bars, facing 3 counts of criminal sexual assault. Police were tipped off of the crimes by the alleged victim's family.
Parental intuition. They felt something just wasn't right.
I talked with a mother who had children taking lessons at Invicta Martial Arts Academy in O'Fallon, Illinois. She didn't want to be on camera, but tells me she's stunned by the news that Harris allegedly had a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl, a former student. Investigators say the sexual relationship took place at the academy, but don't know when it started. Police say Harris had hundreds of students, and there could be more victims.
Mr. Harris has access to a large amount of present students and possibly former students, and we just want to make sure everybody is safe.
Police say Harris has no criminal record, but believe their 2-day investigation into these allegations warrant a warning to the community.
We feel that it's a sense of urgency, not only for the community, but for the students.
And Harris is currently in the St. Clair County Jail. His bond has been set at $300,000. Once again, O'Fallon, Illinois police want any other possible victims to contact them immediately. And you can call the number on your screen right now. It's 618-624-4545. We're live tonight in O'Fallon, Illinois. Corey Stark, News 4.